So a little bit of a long video. I've kind of gotten fed up of doing short videos because you just cannot fit things into it. And more importantly, I don't like to speed up my videos. Over the last couple of weeks, maybe about, about 3 or 4 weeks, I've been doing a lot of Cadel videos because I have a Cadels workshop coming up on June 7th and 8th. And I was talking with Tim about them and he said, why don't you write some text instead of just doing 1 or 2 Cadels? So I thought, yeah, sure, no problem. And I cannot tell you how hard this has been. I have done so many drafts trying to sort of get a sense of writing the Cadels and writing text, as well as adding some little bits of decorative flourishing that you find with Cadels. Now, there are tons and tons of different types of Cadels. And the research that I've been doing these past 2 months, and I must confess, you know, I think I've done more research about these Cadels than I've done on any other script, simply because there's not a lot of information available. And I've discovered something like 9 different kinds of groups which make up these Cadels, and approaching them in different ways, trying to build them continuously as a true Cadel, or juxtaposing lines so that they make up angles, which is essentially building a false Cadel. So I've decided to write some text and show you how these Cadels work within the context of text, of writing text. So I'm going to use a sort of middle 15th century Batarde, French Batarde, of which, again, there are tons of variations. I'm going to add the Cadels in, and then I'm going to add in the decoration. So this is not going to be a short video at all. I hope you stick along for the journey of it, because I hope that I don't mess it up. Because the Cadels are quite tricky. So let's get started. Now, I have been using these Pratik pens for the Cadels. So I'm using the I 1.5, which is an italic nib, but I'm using it the other way around, so that I can use a left oblique cut rather than a right oblique cut, which is, you know, for a very specific reason. So let's, you know, it's funny, every time I do this, I laugh because I'm kind of preparing myself for the insanity of these Cadels, because you really have to sort of get yourself into a happy place, because they can be so taxing. So let's start writing before I give up. All right. So the funny thing about this is I was looking at what to write. Just go back to this. And it's so difficult, these Cadels. I'm not really selling this course, right? It's so difficult. And I thought, now, you know, I grew up with Mommy raised the 4 of us on our own, and we would all kneel around the bed and she would open the Bible and we would read from the Bible. So I grew up with the Bible being a big part of my life. When I run into a problem, it's usually the first book I go to. And so I thought, what can I write that really embodies the difficulty of Cadel? So I did a search, because I want to start it with an F, and I did a search online saying, what is a verse from the Bible that starts with an F? And Luke 1:37 came up, which is, for with God nothing shall be impossible, right? So I called Mommy and I said to her, oh, look at this. And she said, oh my gosh, this really fits these Cadels. Anyway, let me get started. Otherwise, I will actually give up on this. Right. So I'm using I could use the Pratik I 1.5, and I'm using it as a right oblique. I said I was using it as a left oblique. So that would be a left oblique, but I'm using it on this side. Now I'm using my own ink, which is out soon. So this is the aged sepia ink. Okay, right. I'll just do a nib ladder. So you can see I have the grid under here already. So this, I'm going to be writing at 3.5 nib widths. And I'm using the Fabriano Traccia pad, which is an excellent paper for writing on. So I want to start here. That's the line I'm aiming for. And as you can see, I've shaded out some of the lines already. I've made this Cadel so many times that I'm quite conscious of it, and I've been writing with these broad edge tools. And it really helps you to learn to keep those spaces open. Now, one of the really fascinating aspects of this is you can also use, do it with a finer nib. So how I approach this is I start off by using muscular movement, because I'm going to write a G. And as I'm approaching the writing, I start to slow down. going to use a long S rather than two short S's. And I'm going to use a Gillott 303, add some of these tendril flourishes I was talking about a little earlier on. Now, okay, so let's add some accompanying flourishes that you find on this kind of thing. So one of the things I found in doing this, my other glasses, I can't even see what I'm doing. One of the things that I found in doing this is there is a tendency to hold the tool, the writing implement, in a sort of a death grip. And I'm very good at not squeezing the pen staff, but I find with Cadels, I press heavier and I sort of hold the tool a little bit heavier and tighter. And that's something I'm trying to train myself not to do. But it's been very difficult because I think because you're not writing the letter in technically you are writing the letter in one line. Because you're not using an individual line, you're using lots of lines. You sort of panic. So let's do every other one. And loop, and loop, and loop. And one, and loop, and loop, and loop, and one, and loop. And let's try and keep it out of the keep it horizontal. I'm doing this and I'm thinking, I'm not really selling this class, am I? Because you're probably looking at this going, no, there's no way I'm going to be doing that. And I want to add one more here because I want a loop and a loop and a loop there. Now, I'm going to add some more things. Let's just zoom in a little bit more. Right. So I'm going to add a dry. I hope that's dry. I'm going to add little twisting ribbon. Notice I've gone from the top and I'm working my way around the top. I'm not guessing as to where the ribbon is twisting behind the letter. And really what I should be doing here is a little bit of anthropomorphic decoration, which would sit here. So this is really sort of typical decoration that you find in this kind of, when you start adding some of these flourishes. Now we can augment this as well. Right. Let's see. So we're going to add, we can do some internal filigree work. We can do the filigree work here. Usually you'd find this at the top of something. I'm just filling the space. And as we have this space here, I sort of messed that up a little bit. Let's add a quatrefoil. So what you want is, you want to get double line. Once we have the double line, we can add some little triangles to the center of those lines, and we can shape this, stay within the lines, and add a little loop there and a loop there. And I'm using the side of the nib. I don't accidentally press on it. I'm using lots of little aspects of flourishing for this. And you know, I've seen some really amazing flourishes over the last, in my research over the last 2 months or so, where all of these shapes are also filled with sort of a canthus-like shapes. All right, I'm going to stop there. So it takes a lot of time to do it. Normally when I'm doing it, I count. And the counting helps me to work out where the next space is. And then that count is where I know I'm going to have to come back and go over that middle bit. So if you have 1, 2, you have 1, 2, and 3. 3 is normally, these are normally the spaces, and this is normally where you're coming back to go over. It's a little bit taxing, but what I've been doing is I've been simplifying the patterns so that I can teach them, so that when I come to teaching them, students are not stressed about them. I've been building new grids that help to hold the pattern, and I found some really interesting and fascinating things about which ties into the way I teach flourishing, which is really, really quite interesting. But I think the most important thing, if you want to try this, is to try to not press and squeeze the tool, because you end up getting so tense. In my mind, I keep saying, relax, relax, relax. You get so tense that the pattern starts to reflect the tension that you are imparting in it. I think the videos for these, you've probably never seen me laugh this much. Unless, of course, you've attended a class, because during the classes, I laugh quite a lot. I find laughing really sort of helps to dissipate the sort of angst that you get from this kind of writing. If I was just writing the Batarde, I'd be fine. But even after you've finished writing, your brain is going, oh, thank goodness you've stopped. So I hope this has given you a little bit of insight into using the Cadels. Now, I've not traced these. I've written them, and this is something I'm very conscious of. I don't want to teach you how to trace them. I want you to understand the steps, how they go back and over themselves and cross at angles, so that the angles are equal and opposite angles, so that they sort of hold it together quite nicely. There are Cadels which you do have to trace when you have really much bigger patterns, but my aim in teaching Cadels is to teach you how to write them so that the shape is as close to one line, going back and over itself as possible. So in the class, I will cover this simplified pattern of writing with pencils, and then we'll move to the broad edge nibs. And I'll also cover other aspects of Cadels, like how they're formed when we write them, and we add verticals with diamond patterns in them, quadrant patterns, to help us sort of not have to do the whole shape in no pen lifts. So good to stop there. I'm kind of waffling because my brain is fried from that. So if you have any questions, by all means, leave them in the comments below, and I will endeavor to get back to you on them. Thank you very much.